In life, there's horses for courses, and there's lots of jobs that I couldn't do. I love what I do. I think it's fantastic, and I think I'm really privileged.
I can't describe it. It is just immeasurable, the feeling that you get when you know you have actually saved somebody.
Saving a life, it is, and birth. You know, to have a newborn baby born out of your hands is amazing.
And you have improved their standard of life, and you see them walking around in the street afterwards.
You get a great buzz at times, you get really upset at times, and it can be a real emotional roller coaster. But at the end of the shift, it's just nice to go home knowing that you've really given your all, done your best, and made a difference in somebody's life.
The understanding of what is a 999 life-threatening emergency, if it is one of those, you've got to call. If it's a heart attack, if it's a stroke, if it is something that is going to put you at risk, then you don't delay, you don't wait, dial straight away. We will be out, and we'll be out as fast as we can.
The point where you can no longer help yourself is where I would define on the choose well list. Where you've got shortness of breath or chest pain, or you're bleeding, or you've been involved in a car accident and you can't move or you can't walk. If you've fallen over on the floor and you're elderly and you're unable to get up, that's when you need us, and you can't physically get yourself in a car and take yourself to the hospital, where your illness or sickness is too much to be able to look after yourself.
I think the majority of the public value what we do. Unfortunately, I think that there is a percentage of the public that doesn't understand actually what we're here for.
9 times out of 10, it is a minor injury. It's not something that warrants a 999. They've had enough money to get them into a cab to town. They've had enough money to get quite well oiled, and then they expect us to run them into an A&E when clearly they could go via other means.
And whilst we're busy doing that, what we're not doing is attending actual emergencies, which could be happening in the next street.
It could be that I'm the closest person to somebody who is in cardiac arrest, and if I got there fast enough, I could potentially save their life. And I'm wasting my time with somebody who really I shouldn't be with.
Lives are at risk. It's as simple as that.
In extreme cases, it could be the difference between life and death.
If there were less inappropriate calls, our job would be a lot easier. We'd be doing the job that we do, and less people would die, basically.
If all the inappropriate calls went away, there would be more of us available to help the people who really need us most.
If someone calls us out inappropriately, it could stop us getting to somebody else who really needs us, and that can result in death.
The jobs that I go to are in my community that I live and work, where my family and friends are. If I are called to an inappropriate call that doesn't require 999 intervention, then I'm potentially putting my own friends and family at risk.
The kind of inappropriate calls that we can receive are things like, my remote control doesn't work, I don't have enough money for a taxi home, my mobile phone's out of credit, so I phoned you rather than my GP. It is amazing what we will be called for.
A list of other inappropriate uses would be alcohol, uses of a taxi service, care homes, people that feel that they need welfare, someone to speak to.
I've been called to somebody who fancied a glass of orange juice but didn't want to get out of bed because he was scared he would fall over, so he called for an ambulance to come and pour him a glass of orange juice. And then you get a lot of calls to people who just don't know any better. You know, people in their early 20s who just got a blocked nose and a sore throat call out an ambulance, and that I find extremely frustrating.
People being unable to get an appointment with their GP, so they think, well, I'll phone an ambulance instead. People are under the misconception that if I phone an ambulance, I will be taken to hospital, and they also think that if they're taken to hospital in an ambulance, they will be seen quicker, and that is not the case.
Some people don't understand, and others just blatantly don't care.
Some people allow their own medication to run out, and then they call us because they don't have an asthma pump to use, or they don't have any more blood pressure medication to take. And we get there and they expect us to have them on our vehicle. Our vehicle's quite small, we can't carry that much stuff on it. And before, I've ended up taking people to the pharmacy and back home again because they've got no other ways of getting it, because it's a Sunday afternoon and they haven't thought about it before that day, and you don't want people then recalling you later. So you try and quick fix at the time as best you can, or you refer them on to a doctor. So really, hopefully if they thought a couple of weeks before, they could have pre-ordered their medication and got it delivered to them.
Some people really do think it's their right. They kind of go, well, you know, I pay my taxes, you will take me to hospital. And it's difficult sometimes to hold your tongue. You have to remain professional at all times, so smile sweetly, I suppose.
There's not a lot you can say to them apart from the fact that really you shouldn't be doing this. We're here for people that are seriously ill.
As an individual, you're part of a society where some have greater needs than others. And it's trying to make people understand that there may be a more appropriate route for them to take rather than phone an ambulance. It makes you feel underappreciated, abused, and just sad that people can be so selfish.
You get called out unnecessarily at times, and knowing how strapped we are sometimes for resources when we're just so busy, and you get called out to somebody who really doesn't need you, can be very, very frustrating. Then obviously there's the obvious things that everybody thinks about, that we do see some things that, you know, stay with you forever.
Inappropriate use of ambulance services is incredibly frustrating. It's so annoying. You really want to vent your frustration at the people that have called you inappropriately, and certainly if they blatantly have called you inappropriately, you just really want to tell them exactly how it is. The job before may have been a life and death situation, and you go to this and you think, you didn't really need us. Why did you call us? You shouldn't have done it in the first place.
I'll probably go to an appropriate call every day, every shift, without a doubt. And if I let every single one bother me, I'd turn out to be quite bitter. And it's not fair on the next patient who really needs you if you've got yourself into a bad mood because you're moaning and worrying about an inappropriate call you'd been to. In terms of adjectives to describe it, frustrated, angry, sad. Sometimes it's upsetting when you've been at an inappropriate call and you find out later that around the corner a child's been hit by a car or something like that. It can get very upsetting. If I had a message for people who use ambulances inappropriately, the message would be, please think about what you're doing. Think about your family, and if a member of your family needed an ambulance and they couldn't get there because they were somebody who's using an ambulance inappropriately, how would that make you feel?
I think that they feel that we've got unlimited resources, and clearly we haven't. And some people may know that we are the last, and to be honest, when I go to a job and I know that I'm one of the last resources, I will tell them, you are preventing me from going to a potentially more serious emergency.
But if it's something like, I've got a bit of a headache, you see your GP first. It doesn't need to be a 999 emergency. Think about what is actually happening first, please.
And your next one could be a life and death, but you're stuck here, having to deal with someone who doesn't need you, who clearly doesn't need you, and they know that they don't need you, but they're quite happy to waste your time.
To reduce inappropriate calls, I would tell the public that 999 is a lifeline, not an advice line. Use it, don't abuse it.